I got 25 of my orders denied, rejected, refused, call it what you want to call it. But basically she told me that I was going to have to come back home, repack them, and ship them out in a different poly mailer, because the poly mailers that I shipped them out in, which were these USPS Ground Advantage poly mailers that I did order through Poshmark, they were specifically only for Poshmark orders. How did she know that the packages I packed in those poly mailers were not Poshmark orders? Well, she asked me, and so I wanted to talk about exactly what happened, what she told me, my response, what I did after that, and then the research that I did. I went through so many different posts. I was like Googling, searching, you name it, trying to figure out what is the right answer in regards to, is it okay for us to be using these on different platforms. And so I kind of want to give my 2 cents on that, what I kind of found, and then what I'm going to be doing from here on out. If you are new to my channel, hi, my name is Ashley. I've been live selling for 3.5 years. Started on Poshmark in 2019, got into live selling on Poshmark 2023 for 2 years, and then made the switch to Whatnot a 1.5 years ago. Basically, I quit cold turkey on Poshmark and then I just went on to Whatnot. And so far it's been really great on Whatnot. It's been really fun. I do live selling part-time, so it's just more of a side hustle. So if you are new, consider subscribing. I do a lot of ship with me, work with me's, unboxings, and all of that. Anyways, so last week I had a show on Tuesday morning. Typically I don't have shows on Tuesday morning, but I decided to have an early show. I think I was on for like 2.5 hours. And between that show and a previous show, I had a total of 30 packages from Whatnot. I'd say from the 30 packages, roughly 25 to 27 packages were packed in these USPS Ground Advantage poly mailers. So to order these, you do have to order them through Poshmark. I have not seen that you can order through USPS or actual website, though you could order the priority mail. Basically what I'm trying to get at, the only way to get them is through Poshmark. I did read through a few posts on Reddit, Facebook, you name it, where there are some big companies who do request them if they're like a big not supplier, big customer, I guess you can say, and they are constantly shipping out using USPS. They will typically reach out to USPS and USPS will supply them. But from what I've heard or read, you have to be like a very big seller or one of like their bigger customers to be able to get that, which is what Poshmark is, since they are constantly shipping out, you know, their sellers. They're considered a big seller, big customer, so that I'm assuming that's why they supplied them with it. So I did place that order through there. It's actually very easy. Back to what happened last week. Took those 30 orders. From the 30, I'd say 25 to 27 of them roughly were in these poly mailers. I did have to get a cart because that's how many packages there were. So I had to literally push this cart in. I did not want to leave them there. Typically I do leave them there on the side and then somebody will eventually come. It was pretty busy. There was around roughly like 10 to 15 people in line, so that made this whole experience just a little bit more brutal, I guess you could say. Maybe that's not the right word, but basically it was just more of, because there was a lot of people there to like see or to hear our conversation. So anyways, long story short, I ring the bell, she comes out and she sees my packages, and the first thing she asked me is, are these Poshmark orders? They're not. Not one of them is a Poshmark order. So I respond with, no, they're not Poshmark orders. And she goes, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to accept these because these poly mailers are specifically only for Poshmark. I responded with, what do you mean? I've had hundreds of orders, you know, with these poly mailers, and I haven't had any issues before. They've all gotten to my customers within the time frame they're supposed to. So I was genuinely confused, and she responded with, these poly mailers are specifically made for Poshmark and Poshmark orders, so they cannot be used for Mercari, Depop, and she went on and listed a whole bunch of platforms. She didn't say Whatnot though, but regardless, basically I understood what she was trying to get at. Basically that I was not able to use these because these were made specifically for Poshmark sellers to use with their Poshmark orders, which I understand, but I did kind of do a lot of research because I was confused. I was confused because I've seen many sellers, from six-figure sellers to your small sellers, use these Polymailers and their boxes and all that, and from what I'm assuming, they haven't had any issues because they keep creating content, whether shorts, you know, long form content, and you still see the orders in the background, and typically they're either whatnot orders or anything like that. So I didn't really see much of an issue, and there's nothing on the Polymailer that says Poshmark or anything like that. So I was trying to see if there's like anything on the Polymailer that says, like, you know, Poshmark or for Poshmark, Poshmark logo or anything like that, and there's not. This reminds me so much of when I first started selling on Poshmark. I remember I started selling on Poshmark in 2019. I remember going to the post office. I think this was around 2019, maybe 2020. I don't really remember when, but I do remember going to the post office. I had maybe one or two packages, and at that time I was using my own Polymailers that I probably ordered on Amazon, Walmart, whatever. And so I do remember, I like vividly remember this. I remember waiting in line, and this girl shows up, and she was dropping off some Poshmark packages. She actually was using the priority mail boxes, so these boxes. So she was using some of these boxes, whether the Polymailers or these. She had roughly around 5 packages packed with these supplies, the priority mail supplies. I remember one of the workers telling her, you can't use these boxes, these priority mail boxes, which as time went on ended up being not true. Long story short, that kind of reminded me of that time. I remember when a lot of sellers started using the priority mail boxes, shipping supplies, there was a lot of kind of fear with using them, of their packages being rejected. And I know there's another priority mailbox that looks very similar, except it's Priority Mailbox Express, or not Priority Mailbox, Priority Mail Express, which has blue on it. But I did see the packages, and she was using these specifically. Anyway, so she got heat for that, and she did have to take those packages home. I don't know if she ended up shipping those out. I didn't ask her what she did or anything like that. She kind of just went on her way, and I was still in line trying to drop off my packages. I'm so sorry for how disorganized this video is. I'm trying to get all my thoughts out. But long story short, I ended up taking the packages. I had to do the walk of shame back to the truck, pushing this whole huge cart, metal cart, and I was pushing it back. It was very heavy. I was sweating. Anyway, so I took the packages back, loaded them to the truck, told my husband, he was in the truck with the kids. Typically and you know what the funny thing is, he always helps me with my packages. And this one time I felt so bad because there were so many, and I was gonna have to get a cart because of just how many there were, that I did not want to bother him. I was like, no babe, I got this, I'll go take them in, don't you worry. We're about to go drop off the kids with my mom and go see a movie. So my spirits were great, had a fabulous show. We were gonna go watch a movie, and then that happens, and so that totally killed my vibe. So I ended up telling my husband what happened. I just loaded up the packages. I was like, okay, whatever. Left the cart back inside. I was like, okay. And then dropped off the kids, went to our movie date, but I could not focus on the movie because all I could think about was what had happened. I don't know, I tend to get fixated on stuff. So the drive from the post office to my parents, from my parents to the movie theater, I was literally just searching up anything and everything that I could about these Polymailers. What are the rules? Yada yada yada. Went through Facebook posts, Reddit posts, used ChatGPT, Instagram posts, like you name it. I went through the whole thing. I honestly spent around 2 hours literally fixating on this issue. So after our movie date, I took him to the other post office, which the post office that I live nearby, literally 5 minutes away, maybe 3 minutes away, they close at 5. The other post office is roughly 25 minutes away. I did make the drive all the way over there. I ended up taking the packages to the front counter, to the front desk, with another lady. Her initial question was, you know, how many do you have? And I was like, oh, we have roughly like 20 to 25. And she was just like, oh, I'll take them. And she took them all happily. So I don't know if it's like a policy that's slowly starting to come out. I don't know if the lady who told me that I wasn't allowed to use them for, not for Poshmark orders, I don't know if she was trying to implement a USPS policy or a Poshmark policy. In my opinion, she was trying to implement the Poshmark policy. I mean, she doesn't work for Poshmark, so I don't really see the issue considering there's nothing on it. Now, had it been a poly mailer like the ones that eBay, the ones, I'm assuming eBay sells them because I'm not too familiar with eBay, but I know eBay has those poly mailers where it says eBay on them. People buy them, I think they buy them, and then they use them to ship out their eBay orders. I understand using one of those for a Poshmark or whatnot order is a no-go, but these specifically, there's nothing that says Poshmark on them or anything like that. And ultimately, what I got to is that there is literally a split right down the middle. You have your sellers who sell on Poshmark who are very straightforward, kind of like, okay, well, Poshmark is being kind enough to supply us with these poly mailers, we should just use them for Poshmark. And then you have other sellers who are like, no, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, there's nothing that says that it's Poshmark, it's not illegal. It's more, I guess you could say, more of like a moral issue, like where are your principles type of thing, which I don't think it's that deep. But and then there was a lot of comments on, you know, Poshmark paid for these poly mailers, which I don't think that's true. So a whole lot of literally just going back and forth of what is the right thing to do. I did come across a blog post, and in that blog post they basically reached out to USPS and asked them what is the, like, are other platforms able to use them even though there's Poshmark supplied them. And USPS, they didn't want to give like a yes or no answer. It was kind of walking around it, saying that they don't give any details on the specific agreements on the use of the poly mailers. So basically a whole lot of nothing. I think it just comes down to the seller, what you think is best for your business. So I think what I'm gonna do because I do have, whenever I do have shows, typically for every show, minimum I have, depending on how long the show is, I'll have 10 orders max. I've had sometimes 40 orders in one show, but those are from like my longer shows. So I am constantly shipping out orders. So I think what I'm gonna do from now on is, I did order my own poly mailers, and there was actually another comment that I did read within all of these posts, whether Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, of people saying how people are not wanting to spend you know, money on shipping supplies, and kind of just, there's a whole lot of negativity out there, let me just say. And that's why I was very hesitant on filming this video, because there was just so much negativity and so much like meanness, I guess you could say, like just so many rude comments towards other people, which was totally unnecessary. Just people just hating on others for, you know, using the shipping supplies, for not wanting to spend the extra money on poly mailers. I feel like if you can save money on, you know, shipping supplies, why wouldn't you? But at the end of it all, I ended up ordering my own poly mailers. I actually have my own poly mailers that I do sell myself on my website, but I'm down to like my last 1,000 units, so I am trying to save those for like bigger orders, because they are pretty big poly mailers. I did reach out to a few bigger sellers. I'm talking 6-figure sellers, to see what their experience was or has been, and I haven't gotten anything back, but if I do, I will report back. So from here on out, I'm just going to be using my own poly mailers. In fact, I feel like everything happens for a reason, and so it kind of just made me think about relaunching or restarting my poly mailer business, which is something that I have been wanting to do for the longest time. Started it, kind of stopped because it was just a bit of a slow process, and I started kind of slow down on it just because I'm just so used to it moving a lot faster, you know, specifically with like live selling. It's a very fast-paced kind of business, and so because it was a little bit more of a slower business, I did kind of just put it on the back burner. So I think I'm gonna start relaunching all of that and getting back into that, and then just honestly just using my own Polymailers from now. And every so often, if I happen to need one, I will use it because I don't see anything wrong with it. For the most part, I'm just gonna try to keep myself out of trouble. I'd really appreciate it if anyone who has any experience with these Ground Advantage Polymailers to give me your 2 cents, because I'd really love to know if you use them for other platforms. Do you only use them for Poshmark? I'm genuinely curious. I'm curious as to where everyone's thoughts are with this. I genuinely don't see an issue with it, but I can see where it can rub people the wrong way, you know? Let me know, have you had any bad experiences with these Polymailers? That's pretty much it for this video. If you did enjoy it, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you in the next one.